Adobe Max 2017 Las Vegas. Welcome to the Dell FMC campus. I'm your host, Paul Macri, with Future Media Concepts. We are offering you with the most advanced training possible, available. We are here at the Dell FMC campus, and along the perimeter here, you're going to take advantage of all the new toys that Dell has to offer. We have the most beautiful 5510 precision workstations that everybody's going to have their hands on during this next session with Mr. Maxim Jago. Maxim, take it away.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'm very happy to be here on the Dell campus at Adobe Max, and thanks to FMC for inviting me over. So we have about half an hour, and in this session, I'm going to talk you through the audio controls in Premiere Pro. If you look at the marketing information from Adobe, they're very clear about the audio functionality being really, really great, but it's often a bit thin on the detail about why it's so great. So what I'd like to do in this session is walk you through the links in the chain from a piece of audio coming into the system to your output, your mastering, so that you've got a sense of the audio adjustments that you can make. I'm also going to touch on the essential sound panel, but I know that in this noisy environment we're not going to be able to hear some of the subtle background noise that we want to fix. But I'll show you the controls anyway. So I've got some audio here. Here's a piece of music, for example. And I'm going to throw this music down into a sequence. Now, if you're following along, you want to open up this Getting to Grips with Audio project. Now, let me rewind a step. I'll take you from the welcome screen so you can see. So when you get into the welcome screen for Premiere Pro, we're going to click on Open Project. And you're going to browse to the desktop. And you'll find on the desktop, there's a folder called Maxim Jago PPC Assets. And inside of there, you're going to find this project called Getting to Grips with Audio. You can open that one up, or you can open up Getting to Grips with Audio 1. That's just the updated version because we're working in the new version of Premiere Pro. So I'm going to choose that. If it comes up saying it needs to save a new version, just agree, it's okay, it's going to make a new version. And now we're in a project which is very simple. And if you look at the bottom left, in the project panel, we've got a bin called Audio Media, and there's a sequence called Waves. There's a little, what used to be a triangle, I don't know what we should call it now, it's a little disclosure icon. If you click on that, you see the contents of the audio media bin as it is. It looks like a folder icon. And I'm going to double click to open this Ambient Heavens track. And this gives us our waveform. Now, just so that we've got, my goodness, they're very excited about audio. Now, just so that we've got something in our timeline that we can work with, I'm going to grab this and drag it across over into the sequence and just drop it on the timeline. So now we've got a piece of audio, and so we can see the waveform a little more clearly. I'm going to click and drag down. Now, one of the things you might notice, I'm just dragging down here on the track header. One of the things you might notice when you're looking in Premiere Pro is that the audio clips have this strange kind of waveform. It looks like a mountain range. And this is an energy plot waveform, and it's particularly useful for seeing more clearly quiet audio. And we can change that. If we go in the panel menu, actually we may need to go, let me go back. Yeah, in the panel menu for the timeline, we've got this option to choose rectified audio waveforms. So I'm going to switch that off by selecting it, and now you can see a classic waveform display. And for audio like this, it doesn't really make much difference. It's fine. You can see either way what's going on with your audio. But what you'll find is if you're working with quieter audio, things like softly spoken speech, these regular traditional audio waveforms aren't always that helpful for showing you where the audio stops and starts, because the speech is so quiet, it doesn't create a full waveform. So I'm going to go back into that panel menu just next to the name of the sequence, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to turn back on rectified audio waveforms. Okay, so now I was saying at the beginning that audio goes through several stages in Premiere Pro, and I want to just walk through each of these first of all. When you capture your media, whether it's on camera or it doesn't really matter how you capture it, the file itself has an audio level, and Premiere Pro will read that audio level and present it. But if you right-click on a clip inside of Premiere Pro, I'm going to right-click on this music clip. I'm going to go to Modify and Audio Channels. You have the option to specify which audio channels Premiere Pro is going to use. Now, in the case of this music, I want to have stereo because it's stereo music. I want my left and right audio. But it's pretty common as well to have audio that is multi-channel capture on your camera, and you only really need one or two of the channels. Maybe you're recording XD Cam or P2 or any of these formats where you get 8 audio channels. It's very common, and 6 of them are irrelevant. They're completely pointless. So you might as well get rid of those audio channels in the bin so that when you add the clips to your sequence, you're not having to work around them and constantly delete them. It's actually very easy to do. If you look here in the audio channels section of the Modify Clip dialog, you can specify how many audio clips are going to be created. In the case of 8-channel audio, this actually will be set. You'll have the clip channel combination set to mono. The number of channels will be 8 by default, and you'll see something like this, which is just a crazy number of empty audio tracks that you don't need. All you have to do to fix this is select all of your audio in the bin, all of the clips, all at once, right-click, choose Modify, Audio Channels, and just change this number to 2. Because that's the only audio channels you really need. And from now on, when you bring those clips into your sequences, you won't have 6 empty audio tracks. It's very easy to change later, but for now, this is all we need. So I'm going to cancel out of this. And you'll notice that over in the bin, I can also, let me see if I can get access. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so I can show you this. And let me go, I'm going to select this clip, and I'm going to go to the clip menu at the top of the screen. I'm going to choose Audio Options, and I'm going to choose Audio Gain. I have to say I don't use this workflow very often. I usually just press the letter G for gain, which is the keyboard shortcut. But let's go into here. Now this is a dialog that a lot of people use in the timeline. And it allows you to adjust what would often be called the input gain. That's the first audio level adjustment that's made to the audio coming into Premiere Pro. And it's helpful to visualize a mixing desk when you're looking at these settings. Imagine that you've got an audio feed coming in from an electric guitar or a voiceover mic or whatever it is, and you've got an adjustment on the desk at the very top of the mixing desk, which is your gain control. Now, we've got some useful controls in here. At the top, we've got the option to set the gain to, and what that really does is make an adjustment in decibels, which is the most common audio scale that people use. You can make an adjustment in decibels to increase or decrease the amplitude of your audio. But you can also do it incrementally and just have Premiere Pro do the math for you. So if I type in here 3, then Premiere Pro will put 3 dB onto the set gain to option, which is kind of pointless at the moment. But if I click OK, you can see the waveform just got slightly bigger. And if I go back in to that same dialog, in fact, I'm just going to select this clip and I'm going to press G. There it is. And now I add another 3, you can see what's going on. Premiere Pro's now set the gain to 6 decibels. So this is really just a way of you quickly making incremental adjustments without having to do any arithmetic. It's kind of a super lazy dialogue. That's okay, but the really interesting part of this dialogue is down here, where we've got the option to normalize our audio. And normalization is a process by which the system identifies the loudest part of the audio and then makes an automatic adjustment to the level to fit whatever rate you want. So for example, if I set this to normalize the max peak to, let's say this is music, I want it to be at minus 18 dB. I can tab to apply that number, and you can see that if I click OK, let's just OK this, you can see that my waveform shrunk. I'm going to go back to the clip, I'm going to press G, and you can see that Premiere Pro has adjusted this gain control by minus 15.7 dB. So what's happened there? What's happened is Premiere Pro has identified that the loudest part of this music is minus 2.3 dB. And it's a minus because 0 dB is actually as loud as your system can capture. Audio level is not, it doesn't start at 0 and go up. It starts at 0 and goes down, because 0 dB is the loudest signal your recording system is capable of capturing. And it goes down and down and down and down to infinity, into minus infinity. But before you get to infinity, you'll hit the noise floor. And the noise floor is where the background hiss is. It's where the ghost in the machine is. Not the background noise in the room, that's really part of the signal, but just the noise inherent to the machine. So you never actually hit perfect silence. Even if you reach a point where it's just the background radiation from the Big Bang, you'll never absolutely hit silence. So what the system's done is it said, well, the loudest bit of this music is minus 2.3 dB. It's pretty loud. And if you want it to be minus 18 dB, then I suppose we're going to need to take another 15.7 off. That's all it does. So I could do the mathematics if I wanted to, but what's the point? I might as well get the system to do the work. So far, so good. But where this really becomes useful is this option, normalize all peaks to. This option, a lot of people never learn what this does, and it's incredibly useful. If I select multiple clips in the bin, just like this, and press G, I just made a shift selection. So I clicked on one, I held down shift, I clicked on the last one. Now I've got 3 clips selected. So if I choose normalize all peaks to, and I set this to minus 18, Premiere Pro will adjust each individual clip so that it matches minus 18 dB. Why would you use that? Well, let's imagine you're working with multiple pieces of music and you haven't decided which one you want to use yet. You're always going to want to drop the level of music because it's always going to be too loud. And the reason music's too loud is because the creators of the music want to make sure there's the maximum difference between the audio level in the signal, in the music, and the background noise. And that means that you're going to turn the volume down, and when you turn the volume down, you turn down the background noise as well, and so the music sounds cleaner. That's why when people are capturing audio on set, they always try to capture as loud as possible. They always risk it overriding so that you're going to turn it down and get rid of that background hiss as well. So using the normalize all peaks to option, I can get all of my music, drop it all to minus 18 dB, which is probably a good starting point for music in a sequence. And from now on, anytime I use those music clips, any one of them will already have a useful audio level. Another good use for this is if you're working with voiceover. Imagine you've recorded a long section of voiceover over a period of several days, and you want to make sure that that particular voiceover artist has the same audio level for all of the clips, all of the recordings. No problem. Select all of the clips in the bin, hit the G key, punch in your peak level for voiceover, maybe it's minus 6 dB, whatever it is for web delivery. Click OK, and now every one of those voiceover clips will hit the same peak and be consistent throughout your program. And you did that in a single step. So I'm going to click OK. Now all of my music has the right level. And you'll notice that the music in the timeline, let me get this piece of music again and drop it into my sequence. You'll notice that the instance that I had in my sequence already has not updated. Although it's the same control and it modifies the clip in the same way, you have the option to apply the gain adjustment to the clip in the bin separately to the gain adjustment on the timeline. But the workflow is identical. So if I select this clip and hit G, there's the same dialogue. I can put in minus 18, press enter, and now the adjustment's been made. So a gain adjustment is the first adjustment in the chain. First of all, the audio level is captured. Diaphragm in the microphone moves, measuring the air pressure. That gets turned into electrical signals, which gets converted into data, which is your audio level. That then gets interpreted with the gain adjustment. And the next adjustment on the list is the clip keyframes. So if you look on the timeline, it's kind of subtle, but there's a little white line going right away across the middle of this clip. And that white line is my clip level adjustment. If I drag this down, you see I get a dB rating, and now I've lowered my audio level. You'll notice that the waveform did not change. The waveform only changes if you make a gain adjustment. But I've made my audio quieter. And just to illustrate, if I play, you can see the level on my meters over on the right. If I lift this up, you can see the levels go up. Very, very simple. Now this white line is actually used to keyframe our audio level. Right now, I'm making a flat level adjustment to the entire clip, but if I want to, I can add special marks to the rubber band which allow me to adjust the level over time. Each mark has a volume control. So if I zoom in here so you can see, right now I've got the selection tool selected, that's this pointer, the keyboard shortcuts V. If I want to, I can hover over this line, and while I do, on this Windows machine, I'm going to hold the control key down, and this gives me a plus symbol and a different icon. This would be the command key on macOS. The control and the command keys are interchangeable. I'm going to click once, and this is going to add a keyframe mark. Now the concept of keyframes is very, very simple. It's a mark at a particular point in time on a clip, and that mark has a setting attributed to it. In this case, there's nothing in particular set. It's the audio level that the rubber band, as this white line is called, has. But I'm going to just click again with the control key here, adding another mark, and I'm going to drag this first mark down to the bottom, and I'm going to drag the second mark up quite a lot. And what I've done now is I've keyframed the audio level for this clip. And you can see this if I zoom out. If you just watch my meters, I know it's a bit quiet in here, but if I play this, you can see from my meters, it's quiet. And now, as that slope begins in the rubber band, my meters are going to lift up, and now I'm getting the level that I set. So it's really very simple. The higher the white line is, the louder the music is going to be, or any clip that you make these adjustments to. That's rubber banding on the timeline. Now this principle of adding keyframes to particular points in time is absolutely universal in Premiere Pro. Right now, I'm making an adjustment to the audio volume. I could just as easily make an adjustment to the opacity of a clip to make it seem, in this context, it would seem brighter or darker. Or I could adjust the scale of a clip or the rotation of a clip. It's the same principle every time. So if I look, I'm going to select this audio clip, so I'm just going to single click to select it. I'm going to go to the Effect Controls panel, and you'll notice in the Effect Controls panel, which shows you the settings for any effects that you apply to any clips that you select. Under Volume, if I scroll over, I've got two little marks, and those little marks are the keyframes I just added on the timeline. They're reflected in both panels, in both windows. If I just expand the volume control here, you see I've got a bypass option to ignore the adjustment. I've also got a level control, and that level control is based on the adjustment I made on the timeline. These two parts of the interface update one another live. They update one another dynamically. So I can now make adjustments over time, and a classic use for that would be, I suppose, if you were, maybe you had a voiceover, you wanted to drop the voiceover under, or drop the music under some voiceover or something like that. So we've got the original audio, we've got the gain control, we've got the clip level. Now Premiere Pro also has some pretty advanced track-based audio adjustments. If I go up to the window menu, under the window menu I can choose Audio Track Mixer. And in the Audio Track Mixer, I've got the option to ride a fader control. I've got mute, solo, and record options to record directly onto the timeline. And I can add keyframes over time, not to the clips, but instead to the tracks that the clips are on. And this is a pretty advanced workflow that not that many editors use in Premiere Pro, because most of the time they find that clip level adjustments is enough. So if I add some adjustments on here, and I'm going to show you just here, I can see on the timeline I'm working on a track called Audio 1, and that Audio 1 is reflected in my track mixer as Audio 1. If I drop the audio level all the way down on that track, nothing whatsoever appears to happen on the timeline, which isn't very helpful, because now if I press play, I've got no level in my meters. It's completely silent. And the reason it's completely silent is that the next item on the list on that chain of audio level adjustments is my track level. But how do I see it? Well, if I just expand this a little bit more, down on the timeline, I'm going to zoom in, you'll notice there's a little button for every audio track which allows me to choose which keyframes I'm going to view. Am I going to view clip keyframes or track keyframes? The panner is the left and right pan. But I'm going to choose the track keyframes, and I'm going to choose volume. And now there it is. You can see I've got this white line that's right along the bottom. Now I'm going to zoom out so you can see this as I do it. If you watch that fader on the left, as I drag this line up, you can see the fader moving. Can you see that? Just like the clip keyframes, I've got an adjustment that updates over in the audio track mixer. It's a completely independent control. So why would you use it? Well, the benefit of using audio track keyframes is that you can have audio level adjustments over time that are applied regardless of the audio that's on the track. So maybe you want to try out different pieces of music. Maybe you haven't decided on the soundtrack that you want, but you know that you want the audio to dip under the voiceover. No problem. You can easily swap out the music that you're working with, and those keyframes will be applied. Okay, so we've got the original audio, we've got the clip gain, we've got the clip keyframes on the timeline, and then we've got the track keyframes. We also have a master control. You notice over here in the audio track mixer, we have a master volume control. And all of the audio that goes through your sequence will go through that fader as well. We also, of course, have audio effects. And if I go to my effects list here, you'll notice that we've got a lot of audio effects that I can apply. The audio effects will be applied after the clip keyframes, but before the track keyframes. So for example, let's see, maybe I'll do a 10-band graphic equalizer. I'm just going to drag this onto the clip. Oh, hold on, I got the wrong clip. Make sure, or let's pick balance, for example. If I can put this on to, I need to put it on a mono clip. Several of these clips will work. And once you've got them on there, you can make an adjustment, and it just adds another link in the chain. So the challenge is, how do you decide where to make your audio adjustments? And my advice is, in general, to just make clip level adjustments, because I would say 9 times out of 10, that's all you're going to need for your projects. You're not going to need to adjust anything else. However, Adobe recently added a new panel in Premiere Pro called the Essential Sound panel. And if we go up to our Workspaces panel, we can choose Audio, and this is going to display the Essential Sound panel. If you don't find it, you can always reset the workspace, click on the panel menu, or you can go to the window menu and you'll find the Essential Sound panel listed. Now in the Essential Sound panel, nothing happens at all until you select a clip or multiple clips. So here, for example, I'm going to single click to select this music, if it'll let me, or unless I've zoomed out. Let me go back to my editing workspace here. Oh, I see that. I've caught myself out by a thing that I was intending to show you. This is really interesting. It just goes to show you can be an articulate idiot just like me. I can't click on this clip. I can't do anything with it. And the reason is that I set my timeline to show me track-based keyframes and not clip-based keyframes, which means that I'm no longer actually interacting with the clips. That's why I couldn't put the effect on. For me to be able to access the clip again, I need to switch back to viewing clip keyframes. And now I can click on the clip, and actually I should be able to find that I can put this, where was I now, that 10-band graphic equalizer on. And in my effect controls, let me just minimize this. There's my graphic equalizer, and I can now make adjustments. If I go into the settings, say I get an interface, and I can adjust the audio level. Okay. So let's go back. In the Essential Sound panel, if I just deselect, you see it's all grayed out. If I select this audio clip, I need to tell Premiere Pro what type of audio it is so that it can give me the kinds of shortcut controls to work with my audio. I'm going to choose music. And essentially, I've got one option. I can adjust the loudness for the music to a level that's probably going to work. And I can also do things like adjust the duration. So Premiere Pro will give me a new duration that works. We were talking earlier about remix. It's not remix, but it's a good, clean playback speed control. So I'm going to choose auto match. And Premiere Pro has automatically analyzed the audio, and it's adjusted the audio in such a way that it now hits the industry standard of -23 LUFS, loudness units full scale, for music. And this is a standard audio level for broadcast TV. So if you don't want to think about it, if you don't want to know, you can just hit that button and Premiere Pro will adjust the audio level appropriately. If I go to the, let me bring up my effect controls panel, you can see that there's, let me remove this, this adjustment here. You can see the adjustment that's been made is now applied. And there's an effect applied which is called channel volume. It's really cool because it's a very high quality effect. It'll pass through into Audition if you were working with Audition to do your finished mix, but it means that the level is just right for broadcast TV. Now I'm going to go back to editing, and I'm going to go to my project panel, and let's say I've got some voiceover here. I'm just going to move my timeline up a little bit, and I want to put that voiceover in my sequence as well. I'm just dragging it down. Let's resize this a little as well. And now I'm going to go back to my audio workspace. I've got that voiceover selected, and now I'm going to tell the Essential Sound panel that I'm working with dialogue. And this gives me a long list of effects that I can apply to this clip. You can clean it up, you can add clarity, you can repair background noise, you can adjust the EQ, enhance the speech to add clarity to it. But all I'm really interested in doing at the moment is, again, clicking this auto match button. And you can see from the tooltip it's saying automatically match clips to a standard average loudness for dialogue. This is for broadcast TV. I'm going to click the button, and there you can see this voiceover has now been auto-matched to a target loudness of -23 LUFS. The loudness units is a new scale that's used for broadcast television that's based on the amount of energy per minute rather than peak level. And it's just a more consistent audio level adjustment for broadcast television. Now you can see the audio level's been adjusted, the waveform's updated in Premiere Pro, and I've got music at the correct level, I've got vocals at the correct level, I can play it. On these speakers you can't hear it too clearly, but take my word for it, it's awesome. And the beauty of this system is I've just given you this journey for all of the audio, but actually if you just want to be in a position where it just works, where it's just okay, all you need to do is throw everything on the timeline, select all of your music and choose Music, Auto Match, select all of your vocals and hit Vocals, Auto Match, or Dialogue, Auto Match, and you're done. Your audio levels will be okay, and your mix will work. Okay, we are out of time. Just remains me to say thank you again to Dell for letting us host this training at Adobe Max 2017, and thanks to FMC for inviting me to speak. Have a fantastic series of sessions for the rest of the afternoon.